All right, we're flowing. So there is someone that is the odd person out here. Do we know who and do we know why? Tara, you
Yes,
guess.
it's you.
No, it's you.
Oh,
Because
I'm the odd one out.
two of
Yes.
us have run a marathon on this
Oh,
podcast.
hmm
So now is your turn.
I am not committing to running a marathon. I will run all the 5Ks in the world that you guys want. And Amy and I have run many together. And when I say run, I mean jog. That's my run.
mine too.
And we have held hands. We have held hands across many finish lines. And listen, that 5K is like my freaking marathon. Um, but you two, I will stay the odd man out. I will celebrate you. I will be at the finish line if anyone else wants to run another marathon, which I know is a no for
No.
Paolo. Oh yeah, it's
No.
a no. It's a no.
One, and I'm good.
Exactly, bucket list. So anyway,
Yep.
before we continue, Tara, please introduce our guest.
Yes, I love it when we have a guest, and I specifically love the guest that we have today. Not only do I really love her just as a person and as a human being, she is so perfect as a guest for us because she really embodies everything that you and I talk about on here. So she has a very holistic approach to her life. We just got off a coaching call, her and I do get the privilege of being her one-on-one coach, and we've been doing it for going on 2 years at this point. um just when you talk about someone who's an action taker, who is super willing to be self-aware, okay, what's going on, what's the challenge, either I know what I need to do or I don't know what I need to do, and then taking action and getting results. And I can look back at where we originally started together. She was already an amazing leader then, but seeing how she has grown and the transition and what her team looks like now and what she created and the wins and the challenges that we have now versus 24 months ago, she just is such a huge value to anyone that gets to spend even 5 minutes with her. And she is so giving of her time. She holds sessions every month for agents that are not on her team, and teaches. She's just amazing. So I know a lot of other things about her outside of the business environment, which I think we will touch on some of those today, which is really important to Alpha Flow, Amy, because yeah, we all want to have big successful businesses, but we want to have big successful lives, and we can have a lot of great money in the bank and be really unhappy in our personal life. And you are an epitome of what that counterbalance looks like. So, Amy has been in real estate for 28 years, I believe.
28 years in May.
Uh-huh. All
Yeah.
right, 28 years, and came from big Fortune 500 company, finance accounting background. If we had a dollar for every person we spoke to in our lives that wanted to leave their full-time job or leave their current career to jump into real estate, we could probably retire. So I'd love to start there. What spurred you? What gave you enough gumption, right, to face that fear of making a big change from what I'm assuming is a pretty stable work environment to yeah, I'm going to get my real estate license.
So at the time, I was married to a home builder. He was using, he had just started into home building, and he was using, a couple local agents to help sell his homes, and he was never happy with them. And I actually had a childhood friend whose mom was a real estate agent, and when we would get together and play, we would, get some kids play school. We played real estate office.
I love that.
And you
Never.
still got into real estate, knowing all of
I
this.
still got into it. Yes. Yeah. So I always had it. Everyone always says they have an interest in real estate because it's fun to look at houses. It's fun to see the nice houses, but there's a lot more to it than that, which obviously I've learned over the years. But I really got into it to help my husband sell his new homes. And I was really just going to do it kind of on the side, because I carried the benefits for us. I had this great job, paid vacation, 401k, the whole thing. And after I had my son, um, he was about close to a year old. And I went into my manager's office one day. I was moving from one building to another in the company and finally got this really nice office. And I said, well, I'm going to my new office now. I packed everything up. And he was like, and he said, okay. And it wasn't like, it was kind of a joke, but I just said, I'm probably going to have some separation anxiety from the people in this building. And he said, well, now you know how your son feels when you drop him off at daycare every day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I looked at him kind of in shock and I said, I can't believe you just said that.
Mm.
And I walked away and I went over to my new office and I sat in there and I had already been taking the classes for real estate. And I was like, I think this is the time to make the move. I'll just give real estate a try and see what happens.
Wow. I was going to say,
So
so just for our listeners, a lot of you don't have a deep understanding of the real estate business. Obviously, it's how Tara and I met, and you guys also met in through this industry. Just so some context, the statistics are pretty sad. I think it's around 97% of agents are out of the industry by the time they hit their third year. So, and then something crazy like 50% of agents never do more than a deal or two a year. It's a really, really tough business. You've been in it for how long now? You said 2 decades? Something like that?
28 years.
Yeah,
20,
28
nearly
years.
3 decades. Talk to us about the mindset needed to get through an industry that is really, really dependent on, cyclical things with the market. And, you've 28 years, you've been through a few of the booms and the busts. What kind of mindset does one need to stay in something consistently for that long?
It's funny. At the beginning, you mentioned about the marathon. And one thing I learned when I ran the marathon, and I read a book. I mean, back then, I read a book that said it was the non-runner's marathon training guide. Because I didn't consider myself a runner, but I wanted to run a marathon. And the very last line in that book is, your mind is the key.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe you can do it, you can do it. And I remember I typed that out. This was 20 plus years ago. I typed that out on a piece of paper and put it on my mirror in my bathroom. And it really has carried me through a lot in my life, that you just have to believe you can do it. And then you got to figure out the steps to get there.
Yeah, very
And
true.
what real estate teaches you over and over again is there are going to be changes and there's going to be shifts in the market. And the only way you're going to get through it is you're going to have to pivot and find a new way. And honestly, I think that's why I've stayed in it so long, because I've never gotten bored.
Yeah, I love
It
that.
is a new experience every day.
You've also rebuilt yourself and your business, even in the time of you and I knowing each other. The way that your team looked when we first started working together versus how it looks now, very different.
Yeah.
So, what would kind of mindset, as we like to say, like sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. I mean, I remember watching you dismantle, like you kind
Yeah.
of dismantled what you had built to rebuild. How, when it's scary or when you need to make a big shift or change, what kind of mindset do you lean into? What do you do?
I think having the experiences of dealing with tough things throughout my life and getting through those gives me the confidence that I did that. I can get through this. I say the worst thing I went through in real estate was the market crash in 2007, 8, 9. And then I got divorced in 2010. And I was married for 20 years. And I lost a lot of stability there. But I was determined that my life was going to be better. I was married to an alcoholic. I was the one that took care of everything. And I said, if I'm going to stay in this business, I've got to figure out a new way without relying on a builder to build my business. And I did it. And one of the ways I did it, and I was very fortunate, I was at a big national brand, and two of the agents there said, we want to start a mastermind group with just a few agents in the office. And we want to know if you want to join the mastermind group. We're just going to get together once a week and we're going to talk about our business and ways that we can build our business. And I was like, I would love that. That was a true blessing. And I learned a ton through them. I went through a very difficult period of my life with them. And I decided that I'm going to do that for other agents because it made a huge difference. And back when I first got in the business, there was an agent in my office that everybody was afraid of. She was a real power hitter and very bold. And she pulled me in her office one day and said, I want to talk to you. And I was a young agent, like I had no clue what I was doing. And she started talking to me. She said, I went through one of your husband's homes. And she started asking me about things that he puts in his homes that I wasn't even really that aware of, but she was, because she knew the business. And she said, you need to, if there's one thing, and she gave me a list. I sat down with a notebook and I wrote down everything she told me of a list of things that I should do. And I did every one of them. But she gave me great information. And everybody, the other agents and officers like, what did she want? And I was like, she was actually very helpful. And she said to me, I would help anybody, but most agents won't do what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I will. And I did. And it was a huge help. So then, years later, I teamed up with, it ended up being a group of 5 of us that met every week and just made a huge impact on my business and got me through a very difficult time in my life.
And now you run your aha sessions. Can you talk about those a little bit? Like, who's invited? I think you just gave us kind of the background of why you do it, right? Because you want to continue to give back, and it was so important. And Paolo and I often talk about, like, no one succeeds alone, and we need our crew around us. We need our people around us. We need people that think differently than us. We need those safe spaces. So talk to us a little bit about the aha sessions that you do. Who comes? Can you kind of tell when someone's going to have success or like going to fizzle out? What do you see as kind of one of the biggest, because you have a lot of new agents that will come.
Mm-hmm.
What's kind of like the misbeliefs that are out there? Someone gets into the business or is thinking about getting into the business that they think they know, or there's kind of a rude awakening or a trait that you see successful agents have.
Let's see, successful trait. There's a lot of them. Well, number one, you got to show up.
Imagine
You know,
that.
so many of them wait for the business to come to them. You got to show up and you got to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. Real estate's tough. People, what they see on the outside. I had an assistant years ago that was like, I remember when she was a big powerhouse agent in our area. I remember when so-and-so was helping us find our house, and she pulled up in her Mercedes and got out with her designer purse and opened the door. And I thought, I could do this. And she said, but since I've been working with you, I had no idea what all you do.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to relay to agents. There's a lot more to it than what you see on the surface.
How do you help your agents tackle that, right? New or agents that maybe come to you from other companies that, they're only doing a couple deals a year, like Paolo mentioned, like an average of 1 or 2 a year, where your agents are closing 1 to 2 per month. What sets you apart? Like, why your team, or why connect with you?
Well, figuring out their why,
Mm.
and then the goal setting, and I use the same ROI tracker with them that I do with you, Tara, and
Tracking your numbers.
you break that goal down into monthly, weekly, daily things that you've got to do if you want to hit that goal.
Yeah.
And the accountability.
There's that word again.
All right, so you're pulling up in your car and your designer handbag and shoes. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I mean, that's what I did. I loved it. Um, but no one, people don't really, they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They don't see that. And then what they really don't see is kind of going back to the original part of the story where, your manager makes a comment about you dropping your son off at daycare. I mean, I remember an incident where I actually had called the police about something that happened at school, and the police officer said to me, if you really cared, don't you think you would have just gone to the school? And I'm like, I have a full-time job. I'm depending on the school to they're telling me they're taking care of something. Of course I would drop everything and go. I didn't think I had to do that. But this police officer said that, and I remember feeling so angry. And then I just got off the phone and I totally broke down because the mom guilt and the dad guilt,
Hmm.
it's always very, very close. So we look at like what your business is doing now, what your team is doing now, successful transactions and units and volume, and the team is growing, and you're mentoring and you're coaching and you're putting on sessions for agents that are outside the company even. Um, it all can look glamorous.
Hmm.
What we don't see is, and whatever you want to share, but the real personal life, you as a mom, you as a wife, you as a human being, as a woman taking care of herself. Can you talk to us a little bit about what your non-business life looks like that you keep going, that's in parallel with running a successful team and having a successful real estate career, like you're running every day?
Yeah. Okay. So I am remarried. So I have two bonus sons. I had two sons. My husband had two sons. They're actually all exactly 3 years apart, as if it was meant to be that way. We have four grandchildren. I can't believe that because I don't feel that old. And I get up every day. I'm always up by 4:30 in the morning. Um, I started a new workout program because I would much rather run than do any kind of workout.
Yeah, I
But
wanted to talk to you about that.
yeah, so I'm doing strength training now, and
Good.
I started in January. And but there are mornings I get up and I just like to get on that treadmill and just run 5 miles versus getting back off and going to the gym for my burn class. Um, but I'm doing it. And yeah, there's days it's tough, but that is part of that's what gives me energy. I feel 10 times better on the days I do that. I've worked through some very tough personal things this year, and there were days I was at the gym crying while I was working out, but I did it, and it was what got me through. Really got me through.
Where most people give up on that self-care and like you just dug in because you knew if you didn't, things were going to be a disaster.
Yeah, it doesn't change the difficult things that you have if you don't work out. It's not going to fix any of it. So you might as well just go on about your day and do what you do to take care of yourself so that you can keep going and keep refueling is what I call it.
And can we note for the listeners, she's up at 4:30, right? There's no excuses for her. It's not like she knows she's got to make her call, she has to set her appointments, and she's got that time blocked, and it's like it would be very easy to let that time go, but no, like she's okay. I'm not making calls at 4:30 in the morning, so I'm up and doing what I'm committed to. And that's huge. A lot of people won't do that,
Yeah,
But
and they
very
won't
true.
have what you have.
if you talk to successful people, they're up early doing things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's books about it, get up an hour earlier, get going earlier. And I did embrace that years ago, and I still embrace it. It's my time for myself in the morning.
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of went there because that was going to be kind of the line of my next question is what other things do you do? I mean, I I want to get to how difficult it is to run a real estate team, let alone stay in the real estate business. Having a team is a whole other complicated thing. But so you got a lot of people that want your attention, need your attention. What do you do outside of the working out to kind of protect the time that you need to make sure you don't get burnt out or just keep that kind of fire burning inside?
So I do time blocking.
Hmm.
And part of my time
Happy
blocking is
coach.
time with my family. Um, I I started journaling last year,
Love it.
and part of what I do in my journal is write down my what I'm going to do for myself personally, for self-care, and then for my business each day. And then at the end of the day, I reflect on my wins and challenges. Gratitude is huge. But one of my, and I do three reach outs, someone on my team. Uh, I have a brave conversation with someone every day, sometimes multiple brave conversations. And I do a personal reach out so that I don't forget that personal part of my life and friends and family and people that are important to me, that I'm reaching out to someone at least once a day.
And so for those three reach outs, because I feel like a lot of people, and I struggle with this too, is just making sure there's a kind of a process in place to actually do it. What do you do or do you use any software or anything or a notepad? Like, what do you do to keep yourself accountable to do those three things and actually make sure it's getting done?
Oh, hang on a second, I'll show you.
Excellent.
It's very non-techy. This is my journal.
Hmm.
I got it on Etsy. It's got my name on it. And
Love that.
I write in my journal every night. And I set what I'm going to do for the next day.
So in
But at
there, you're
night,
putting the three people.
I'm putting my
Excellent.
three
Okay.
people in there. Yeah. And then sometimes I've done more than one personal reach out or more than one team
Yeah.
um, conversation. But I put all those in there and I reflect on all those. Those are part of my wins and my challenges. Maybe I had a difficult conversation. And my brave conversation is, how did I stretch myself today? Who did I talk to that was tough for me to make that call or have that
Yeah.
meeting?
It really is fascinating and stuff we talk about a lot on here. Just when you're taking account of the wins you have and setting what your goals are for the day, you can come away having a good day every single day because one win is always going to be better than five losses.
Yes.
It keeps the momentum going and just being able to do that on a consistent basis is really so key to being successful. And it's not sexy, it's not the leading bleeding edge of tech and AI. It's just being consistent and showing up every single day. you know and was this stuff you were doing before working with Tara? Because there's a lot of Miss Stone coaching vibes in there too. Was this stuff you were already doing, or was
The
this from the
journaling,
coaching?
no.
Okay.
This is new, and Tara helped me with that.
Yeah.
Last fall, we started working on it, and it's been huge,
Yeah.
huge, because in my personal life, I have a son that suffers from addiction, who for the last 6 years has been in and out, in touch, out of touch. There were weeks, months, I didn't know where he was.
Yeah.
And this has gotten me through. It's really gotten me through. And I don't know how I could have gotten through it's without focusing on the self-care, the personal, keeping in touch with people. There's a lot of misunderstandings about addiction, and there are people that don't understand it, and I had to get in touch with the people who do understand it and who support me. And it's been tough, really tough.
Did you overcome any limiting beliefs around any of the things that we just talked about? Um, like something that was holding you back or something that was stopping you. And if you can identify what that was and like what did you replace it with? Because you're so amazing about your journaling. I mean, I ran program parallel with you and other agents, and you had the most success, and it was because you were committed to the journaling, which started this whole process. And there was an option to do it online, or print out a worksheet, and you
Mhm.
developed, it's so simple. um to see it from an outside perspective, like I 100% know that was the difference between failure and success for that. um what limiting belief have you had or did you have that's come up through the journaling or as you've been growing, um that you can identify, and what truth have you replaced it with? Like what new belief about you have you replaced it with?
Well, one of the things we started with was the I am statement.
Mm.
And I said that I wanted to be more positive. Um, I got to think about it now because you put me on the spot.
She loves
Joyful,
doing that.
confident.
I
I
am
am
joyful,
joyful,
confident,
confident, and
and radiate
great
positivity.
positivity.
I
Yep.
in- I inspire and I empower others to grow.
Yep.
I am the one.
Yes. Yep.
Neo.
Um, so I always felt like I have all these difficult things in my life that I've overcome. I had a mother, she's still alive, but I have a mother who raised us as narcissistic, and learning to set boundaries with her, learning to set boundaries with my ex-husband. Um, I always felt like I wasn't a very positive person, but what I realize is I am a positive person. It's the only thing that's gotten me through. And I want to be that for other people. And there have been so many, I call them angels, throughout my life at pivotal points that I've met that it has to be a God thing that came into my life at the right time and helped me when I was struggling. And I want to be that for other people.
I was going to go there. What I'm hearing a lot is you kind of have this sense of abundance. We talk about all the time that scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. And, I,
Hmm.
I was in the music business for, God, 10, 15, 20 years almost. And one of the things that always frustrated me was no one ever reached back to help anybody else. Everybody struggle. We're all in the struggle together. And then as soon as someone makes it, they're, oh, see you later. What have you always been that way in terms of wanting to reach back and help people, or is it something? Did something happen, or someone inspire you to do that for others?
Um, Many years ago, at my first big job at the Fortune 500 company, I met a woman named Bonnie who was raised in foster care. Really, um, lots of tragedies in her childhood, but was such a upbeat, positive person, and taught me about reading books to help with your mindset. She would talk about Wayne Dyer and what was the book called? When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And my brother was 28 and they found blood clots in his heart and lungs. They told him he was going to need a heart and lung transplant. And I remember I went back to work that Monday and I talked to Bonnie and I said, I got to figure out a way to manage this because I still have to come to work every day. I don't know what's going to happen to my brother, but I got to get through this and find a way to manage this. And she said, she lived close to where we work. She said, I'm going home at lunchtime. I'm going to get you some books. And she brought me a stack of books, and one of them was The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And I read it from cover to cover, and I got the book When Bad Things Happen to Good People because I was raised. I'm practicing Catholic, but I was raised Catholic, and there's a lot of guilt in the Catholic faith. If you do something bad's going to happen to you, kind of thing. And I had to get rid of that because that's not true. I don't believe that for a minute. And Bonnie was the one that she was the catalyst that got me started on this path.
Mm. Over almost 3 decades ago, if not over
Oh
three
yeah,
decades ago.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
3, yeah, Yeah.
I want to say don't you cry because you make me cry, and we've cried on many calls
Sorry.
together. No, don't apologize. I want to I want to call it out for a second because that's the power of being around other really powerful people that can hold spaces for. That's not, there's no weakness, there's no pity in us when we see tears come out, right? That's like, this is powerful. This is powerful stuff. This shit should move you. Excuse my language, but it should. And if it doesn't move you when you're talking about the people that you love, when you're talking about what you're passionate about, when you're talking about how you got through some of the hardest times in your life, if that's not moving you, then what the heck are we having these conversations for? Like, your ability to go deep and be vulnerable is so powerful, and the importance of having people around us that it can allow us to see some tears come out and not pity us, be like, damn, that's hard, and I'm here for you and I've got you, and know that you're going to turn around and kick ass 5 minutes later. Like, you'll go get on a call and close $1 million deal in 5 minutes.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said, Paolo, I think having those people throughout my life that, despite the crappy stuff that they went through, they still reached out and helped other people. I had some beautiful examples throughout my life of people. My other agent friends that started the mastermind, that was huge for me. Huge. Because I had to basically restart my business over. The market crashed. My builder husband wasn't building homes. I divorced him. I had to start from scratch. I never really had to build my business from scratch because I had an in when I got into real estate with having the connection with new homes. I lost that. And I had to rebuild all that. And if I hadn't been in, I don't know that I would have found another way if it hadn't been for those agents that joined forces. And it made a huge difference. Huge difference. And that's what I'm trying to help other agents do, and say it's okay to connect with other agents in your market. So many of them are so, they don't want to tell anybody what they do because it might take away business from them. That scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
But I'm like the first agent that mentored me that said, I'll help any agent, but most of them won't do what you tell them. You know what? I'll help you because we're all different and unique in so many ways. And one customer that I connect with might not be somebody that you connect with, or somebody that I don't connect with might be somebody that you connect with. We all operate, there's a million different ways to operate your business. But there's some very basic things you should be doing to build your business, and I can help people with that.
How do you overcome when an agent just thinks you're trying to recruit them? Like, oh, here's Amy from EXP. All EXP agents are all Keller Williams agents are all, real agents, whatever. All they want to do is recruit, right? So I know your intentions are truly to help. Of course, you want to grow your team with the right agents. Of course, you want to bring people over if they're the right fit and you believe it's the right fit for their business. But how do you overcome that kind of initial, avoidance of talking to you because people just think you want to recruit them?
Sometimes I just say, well, what are you struggling with in your business? What can I help you with?
Hmm.
Sometimes I just congratulate them when I see a social media post, and I reach out to them. I ask them what would they like help with. I'll conduct a session on it. If I don't know about it, I have other agents from other brokerages lead the sessions. And I just tell them that this is truly not for recruiting. This is to help other agents because I get just as much out of it as they do.
Yeah.
And so do the agents on my team.
Yeah.
If I have to talk to somebody about how to do something in their business, I better know what I'm talking about. It makes me grow too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Especially in this, ever changing. I think we all loved real estate because it's very innovative and it's never stagnant or stale. But there's a lot of fear and unrest, in our country specifically. And if you start to get down to the micro of real estate, and to be a real estate agent where you're not getting a paycheck. I mean, your paycheck depends on you being a matchmaker and closing homes. Let's just,
Hmm.
put it there. So where there's so much fear and there's so much unknown and there's so much change, how do you keep your circle, your team on track, flexing, staying up with the times?
I I think reading, listening, connecting with other people outside of our area,
Mhm.
um, attending conventions, workshops. Those are all things you do to build your energy, pour back into yourself. It's an investment. I make the investment.
Yeah, so key. Everyone wants to make big bucks and no one wants to invest in a coach or going to the convention or doing some continuing ed. And I'm not talking about ethics. I mean, I understand ethics are important. I'm not talking about that type of continuing ed. Um, I want to shift gears for a second, unless Paolo, you have any other kind of thoughts or questions around Amy's team or
No, no, I think we covered a lot there. I have a bunch of stuff I want to get to, but well, let's see where you go with this.
well, my question is like a silly question only because her and I ended our session today on it. But it was like, what's a little known or fun fact about you? And she came up with something, and then I thought of something. But I want you to talk about, if you don't mind, like kind of the creative crafty side that you have and how you lean into it, because I think it's so important to balance out like this, very, contracts and transactions and running a team and leading people and pouring into people and a growth mindset. Those are all amazing things and all needed, but we can often forget about this other creative side that most of us have. Paolo has music and I think about my son and his art and his drawing. And I got the most beautiful, Christmas gift from you this year. So can you talk a little bit about how you nurture that side of you?
Well, so everyone that knows me knows I love to go to the beach. And a couple years ago, I just started picking up shells on the beach and got me a little mesh bag to put the shells in. And I had all these shells, and I'm like, I got to do something with them. And I got on, I don't know if I just Googled it, but I was like, what kind of ornaments can I make with shells? When I was in my probably early 20s, I made sweatshirts. I made little ornaments out of different materials, and I enjoyed it, and I got away from that. And so I was like, I need to do something with all these shells, because if I'm going to get more, I got to get rid of some of them. And so this past year, I went to Florida for 2 weeks in November, and I took my craft stuff with me, and I ordered some stuff on Amazon, had it shipped to me where I was, and I started making ornaments for Christmas, and I had the best time. I made little snowmen and angels, and used little wood tiles like from the Scrabble game, and made ornaments with people's names on them, and it was fun for me. It was a lot of fun, and I love a homemade gift, and it's fun to give a homemade gift.
And the only reason she was able to go and take several weeks and be in Florida and be out on the beach collecting shells is that she worked her butt off to build, create, and support a team that could keep her clients and their clients serviced and the business functioning. Because if you can't step out of your business for a week, you don't have a business. You just have a really intensive job. um, and it's I love that when people are like, "Well, what you could just walk on the beach and collect shells. Who has time to do that?" You have time because you've created that time because you've prioritized what you're building, and that's what a lot of people miss, or they forget to lean back into the thing that used to make them so happy.
Mm.
The lesson I need to remind myself of with music,
Mm.
and I think a lot of people forget that when you fire the creative side of your brain, you're only going to enhance the other side of it. You'll be more productive at work. You'll be more attentive and emotionally available for your family and friends. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of like stopping to do things. But I love the fact you made such a big effort to get all of that stuff there, and do it. And that's great.
You keep promising more music, but I've
Yeah,
never
yeah,
received
yeah. I
light
know, I
Yeah, I
know.
didn't
clarity.
know this about you, Paolo. I'd like to hear about your music.
Oh, well, I'm sure we can send you some stuff.
All right, please do. I'll
So
listen to it while I'm doing my crafts.
yeah, well, no kids around. There are some curse words in it.
Oh,
Um,
that's
so
okay.
one of the questions we asked in our form was who you'd like to have dinner with. That was one of the questions, right? Or was that just yeah? But there was an
Yeah.
answer. No, yes or no? You're shaking your head. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said your father, Tara, and Ed
Mm-hmm.
Milet. Big
Yeah.
Ed Milet fan. I would love to know what would you ask him and what would you want to get from him in terms of wisdom.
Well, first, I'd like to thank him
Hmm.
for what he puts out in the universe because just powerful stuff, helpful stuff. Um, and when I say I'd rather run 5 miles than go to the gym and do the strength training, I'd like to run 5 miles and listen to one of his podcasts. It just pumps me up. I so appreciate what he's done with his life, how he's reflected on how he was brought up and how it changed him,
Mm,
and how he's very vulnerable. I think he's very vulnerable
he
and
is, yeah.
real. And so, I always think I'd probably ask him, like, what do you think I should do next? Or what would you recommend for me? But I don't know that that would be a fair question because he doesn't know me that well. Um, but I just feel a tremendous amount of gratitude for him because of what he's been able to accomplish in his life and the way he pours into other people all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. He's definitely had a big impact on my life. A lot of the lessons, a lot of the things I talk about with clients and on here, if you trace it back, it probably came from him at some point,
Yeah.
you know.
That's just a testament too to like how much impact we have the ability to have in this world. Obviously Ed's on stages and puts content out there freely. Um, and everyone has that ability to have that kind of impact. I mean, you're literally changing lives and you never know the person. You don't know their name, you don't know anything about them, but you've changed their life. And I know that you've done that for people. Paolo, I know that you've done that for people. And I just always want to remind people like you have that power and you don't have to do it from a stage. We're in the world of Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, YouTube. There's so much ways to put content out there. You just have to commit to doing it and then doing it consistently. And you do it in person with your AHA sessions. Um, we're just such powerful beings, and we're not meant to do this alone. We are just not meant to do this alone.
That's one of the things I would say too about the AHA sessions and about having a team. Real estate can be very lonely.
Mm.
When you're an agent on your own, it can be very lonely. And I think the AHA sessions solve that problem, can solve that problem for people because you can network with other agents, you can commiserate with them about how tough the business is, but you can also get energy from them and ideas and, get fired up about what you're going to do next.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, there's a big thread. I'm looking at the on my other screen here. I've got the PDF of your form and big kind of theme of being around the right type of people. And I think there's a lot of value, and people often have the wrong idea of, when you say surrounding yourself with winners, it doesn't necessarily mean people that have done more than you or done better than you. It's just people with that winning mindset. And oftentimes it is better to be around the people that you can reach back and help yourself. Because like you were saying earlier, if you're able to teach other people, you really do have an understanding of a concept. And that's one of the things I love about doing this podcast is it's a way of me being able to do that, of like actually getting out the things I know, but it's like, all right, now you actually have to say it and teach it. So I think there's a lot of things that we can attribute to your success, but I would say for me, what I'm hearing is really just knowing who to be around and when, and even the fact that you have a coach. You're coaching other people, but you have a coach. And, I don't want it to sound like we're an infomercial because Tara and I are both coaches, but, having a coach is super, super important because it's a way for you to be accountable and you to level up. And then you can go and pour that back into other people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's actually I got a coach. My first coach was when I started building my team. I in 2013 I had my best year ever and had worked every single day. And I was like, this is great that I've had all the success, but I got to get my life back. And that's what the coach helped me do. And believe me, there are tough days when you're running a team, but there's tough days in real estate. And I wouldn't go back to being an agent on my own for anything. I love having a team. It's my work family.
You put down one of your favorite quotes or mantras was, progress over perfection. And I immediately think of your background in finance and accounting because I work with a lot of what I would call, I know what your disc profile is, but some often the accounting will fall into that super high C category, like really detailed oriented. Things have to be perfect. And I see people that lean more towards that high C personality type, they have a can be really challenging time in real estate, because it's very hard to make things perfect, right?
Hmm.
You're dealing with people, you're dealing with changing times. So when you think of progress over perfection, do you ever get stuck? Like, do you ever find yourself stuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like everyone's like, yes. So what do you do? What do you do in those moments when you find yourself going into analysis paralysis or getting stuck or not sure or fearful?
Well, I don't know where I read it. Something I read a couple weeks ago was like, the cure for anxiety is action.
Mm,
And I've never really been an anxious person, but with everything with my son earlier this year, I had a lot of anxiety. And I think going to the gym, taking care of myself, I just have to keep going every day. Because if I stop, it doesn't solve anything. And so, yeah, there were days I went to the gym. I probably didn't do as good as I could have, but I went. And that's where yeah, it's not going to be perfect today, but I'm going.
yeah.
I'm going to the office today. I really don't feel like it, but I got to do something and I'm going to make a difference somewhere.
That was the key. It's not about feeling like doing it because it's
Yeah.
often we wait till we feel like doing it. I mean, with you, you just impress me constantly, and I know Paolo would agree just from this conversation. Like you are so consistent in what you commit to, and it's okay to change your mind and uncommit to something to recommit to something else. But your drive to stay consistent and do it even when you don't feel like doing it, to me, is what sets you apart. To me, is what makes you so valuable as a mentor and a coach. And if someone's going to hire you or your team, it doesn't matter how you feel. You committed to it. You do it. Period.
Well, thank you. I should have a call with you all each morning before I start my day. You make me feel really good.
Oh, and Pal and I were talking about you, and I'm like, listen, if there's someone that you want to try to like run something through, it's Amy and her team, because if she says yes to it, she's going to commit to doing it. And not that it's perfect, but you you take it very seriously, and I really believe that's what sets you apart. And if for the listeners that are listening, and again, if they had to be listening if they're hearing this right now, it's not about big huge things. You've taken big huge steps, and you've overcome hard things, and you've proven to yourself, hey, I can do hard things. And that can help you get unstuck sometimes when you're in fear and you just
Mhm.
look at some of your past results. But take something small, one thing that you're working on, right? And create a small, minuscule action step on it that you are going to commit to for every day for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it might
Mhm.
be. And then do it. And then let somebody know what you're doing. And it's not their job to hold you accountable. It's their job to come alongside you. That's what you're asking for.
Yeah.
I've never once had to hold you accountable. I've reminded you. I've asked if things were still a priority. But
I think I remember you saying to me one day, now, Amy, remember why you got into coaching? And I think you said, if you're going to pay me to do this, it was something like, this wasn't your exact words, but something like, if you're going to pay me to do this, you better put the effort into it. You said it in a much nicer way. But I was like, in the beginning, I get off the phone, I'd be like, whew, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, it's not without fierce conversations, or it's not like, yeah, you are. It's great to have a great conversation, but you're putting good money out there to have me alongside you. But I'm not doing that with like a whip in my hand, but I am going to ask you like, hey, how did you stay on your commitments last week? If you don't do it, I'm not reprimanding you, but I'm going, is this still important to you? Because if it's not, then let's throw it away and let's move on to the thing that is important to you. But if it is important to you, okay, what do we need to recommit to? Or do we need to change the action step maybe? So it's all, love can be very fierce.
Yeah,
You know, love can be very fierce, and I do, love is one of my core values. So I bring that to everything, including my coaching sessions.
it shows.
Paolo, I jump in, especially when it's a guest I know, so I want to make sure we're hitting your points.
No, I just, it's been really, you said at the very beginning that Amy embodies pretty much everything we talk about on here, just showing up, being consistent, small wins lead to big, huge results. And just hearing your story, Amy, it really rings true. And you said something about just showing up to the gym, and sometimes it's you just did a workout. It's not the best workout. I always tell people that it's a shit workout is better than no workout, and that really does apply to life. And that
Mhm.
again, everything that you do is it's consistent. It's just all these small action steps, like Tara was just saying, end up getting the results and the goals you want to achieve. So really appreciate you sharing your story with us. And I hope it's just another example of I always worry that Tara and I are just repeating ourselves all the time. We're I think 19 episodes into this now, and it feels like we're always saying the same thing, but it really is very, very simple when you break it down. Just show up every single day, do the important things that need to be done, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah. And get around good people. And on that note, we'll put it in show notes, but I want Amy, can you let everyone know how they can connect with you? And I'm just going to give this caveat. If Amy Zimmerman calls you and offers a time for you to meet, the only correct answer is yes. And where do I need to be and when? Because you will leave a better person than you showed up. You will know something different. You will have a connection that will help you when times are tough and when times are not tough. So if someone is lucky enough to connect with you, an aha session or a one-on-one, what would be the best way for them to reach you on socials or phone or
On
an email?
socials, Amy Z Home Team.
Hmm.
Um, and my full name is Amy Zimmerman Longshore. You can find me on Facebook under Amy Zimmerman Longshore. Instagram, I think, is Amy Z Team.
Hmm. What about
Um,
an email?
yeah. What's that?
What about your email? Do you have an
Oh,
email that
email
you would?
Amy at A2Z team.com. So
Please.
ATOZTEAM.com.
Okay, we'll stick it in show notes if
Yeah.
we can, right, Paolo? He does that job,
Yeah,
so I'm
now
I'm a
thanks. Now I've got to go and read through all of this stuff again.
I will email it to you, sir.
If you need help, Paolo, you call me.
I will. I will.
Well, is there anything else we want to hit before we wrap? Because I'm just so excited that now you guys get to be connected as well. That was something that I wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, no, like
I
I said, that was perfect. It's
I
just
want to say thank you to both of you. This has been great for me today. It's kind of nice to reflect on where I've been and where I'm going, and
yeah.
talk to people that I look up to, like you guys.
Well, I'm
We
sure
look up
we would have you back in the future, and we can share where you've gotten to since here. So it's just a nice kind of flag in the ground, so to speak.
Thank you.
Always powerful, always great time together. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, friends. Bye for now.